Good evening and welcome to your 2062 Perfect League World Series coverage. I'm your host, DRC, and it will be my great honor and privilege tonight of capping another wonderful week of Perfect Team and bringing you the play-by-play and analysis as we crown a new Perfect League champion this evening. If you're looking for me, I'm in the top right of your corner. I'm no longer in the bottom left. So hopefully you can find me there and we can get started here because we have a great World Series matchup for you guys tonight. Let me just make sure we've got everything in order on my end here. All right, so we've got the Penguins and the Blue Sox going at it tonight. Let's break down our matchup. We've got about 19 minutes before we have a Game 1 sim. And before we do that, we need to break down this matchup. We need to understand who we think is going to win, and we need to make some predictions. Is it going to be the Penguins? Is it going to be the Blue Sox? And in how many games? But let's not pick our ponies yet. Let's do our due diligence. Let's start with Antarctica. When I did my research on Antarctica, I was blown away, and I think you guys will be too. Let's start with stats. So from a run scoring perspective, 11th in the conference. 11th in the conference out of 20. So we're looking at right at the middle of the league, middle of the pack. Run prevention, 5th best. So you see a run differential here of right around 50 runs over the course of the season. Pretty solid. From a home-road split perspective, we got a .605 win percentage at home, .531 on the road. Pretty balanced. So nothing pronounced there. No indication that there's any sort of cheesy ballpark inflating one while hurting the other. Let's look at that ballpark. So we have a neutral park in terms of handedness, ever so slight advantage to the right-handed batter in batting average. But we do have a nuanced park. So the gaps here, and by gaps I mean doubles and triples, they're completely maxed out, 1.5. And then home runs completely minned out, all the way down at 0.9. So this ballpark's going to play differently. It's going to depress home runs, and it's going to turn a lot of singles into extra base hits, and a lot of doubles into triples. So we can be thinking about which players that might help and which players that might hurt. And as we do that, let's look at the Penguins players. So what do we have here? What do we see? This is a really interesting team build. So for the first time in my broadcasts of the Perfect League World Series here, we have an everyday Nap. So Nap is a new card, and we've got the Penguins here running an everyday Nap. 131 starts on the season, 136 games overall, and pretty solid. High batting average, low OBP, solid slugging. Strikeout rate's high, as you'd expect. But that's pretty interesting. And then combine that with an everyday Honus. And this is our new Honus, a card that I've been trying to get my hands on now since it came out. Very interesting card. Great base runner. A card that can get nuclear hot with the bat, can also get nuclear cold. So very interesting there. We have not had either of those players in this role in a World Series yet. We also have Johnny Bench. So Johnny Bench is in the World Series again. Johnny Bench, a catcher that was extremely popular when that mission came out, and he was a reward for it, a very difficult reward that required the impossible to find 94 bench. But ever since we've seen Campanella and Ivan Rodriguez come onto the scene, we don't get to see Johnny much anymore. Well, Johnny's back. And Johnny's maybe better than ever. Had a rough season with the bat here, but you're not playing him for his bat. He's a defensive-oriented catcher here who might just run into a fastball every now and then. So Johnny Bench is on the short side of the platoon there. As we see, he starts versus lefties, whereas Pudge plays versus righties. The other thing we see here is Al Kaline. Al Kaline into the lineup versus left-handed starting pitching. We don't see much of him. Probably an underrated card at this point, but a card that just doesn't get as much play as you might expect. So pretty interesting build there. Let's look at the pitching. From a pitching perspective, similar to many teams we've seen on these streams, you have your main four horsemen, and those four horsemen being Pedro, Spawn, Walter, and Maddox. And then what do you do with the fifth guy? Well, first off, let's look at the flavor of Maddox, and we're getting your 100 legend. And then as far as how they rounded out that rotation in the regular season, we see that Clemens picked up 22 starts. So it's your four horsemen plus Clemens in a pretty standard deployment. You don't see a mix of relief appearances and traditional starts from this group. So this was more or less a traditional deployment of those arms. Then when we look to the bullpen, we see some nuance here. We see a triple stopper. Triple stopper is not entirely unheard of, but since we've seen so many high-end traditional relievers come out, like Trevor Hoffman, Mariano Rivera, Bruce Sutter, Liam Hendricks, we have not seen people heavily relying on the stopper. But we see Boron Barron rolling it out here. So all in all, this is a very interesting team with players that we haven't seen, with a bullpen deployment mechanic methodology here that we haven't seen recently. So I'm very excited to see how they're going to play here in this World Series. Let's look at how they got here. So round one, they beat the Punishers 3-1. Round two, they take out Elysian Fields 9 in 7. I took a look at that series, and they won it on a walk-off home run from Ricky Henderson himself. So high drama sends the Penguins onto the championship series. And there they also go to 7. Nearly reverse swept. So the Penguins were up 3-0. They were up 3-0 in the series and then found themselves in a Game 7. And the way that they were able to finally get that fourth win that was so elusive for them was via a Walter Johnson gem outing. He went 7 strong. And that pushes them here into the Perfect League World Series. A little history. History on the Penguins. You know, it's fun as you look at these, as you look at this view. For every team, this view tells a story. And every story is a little bit different. You can read between the lines and see what was likely going on in someone's head as they were traversing the various levels, as they're having success or failure. And this is a very interesting and nuanced story as well. So this is their 15th week within the Perfect League. 14 of those weeks have ended up in the playoffs. They were the champion, the Perfect League champion in 2036. Their first week in Perfect. So they make Perfect League, bring down a title in week number 1 of them being there, and then proceed to spend 14 more seasons in Perfect looking for that second title. Maybe they'll find it tonight. The other thing you'll notice is they made Perfect in 2036, and they stuck around for a real long time. That's a 13-week Perfect League stint, which is very difficult to do. And you see immediately following that 13-week Perfect League stint, there was a 12-week hiatus where they were stuck in Diamond, making the playoffs every week, but unable to get back to Perfect until a couple weeks ago. So interesting story there. Let's now look at our Sydney Blue Sox. So here's another first for the stream. We have the cream of the crop from the NC. First in run scoring, 849. First in run prevention, 646. That's a cool 200-plus run differential there. We've never had the number one team in scoring and the number one team in run prevention represent a conference in the World Series. So this is very exciting. True dominance here in the form of the Sydney Blue Sox. From a home road perspective, 605 at home, 568 on the road. Very nuanced and balanced, which might surprise you once we take a look at their slanted ballpark. You also see great defense. So .710 on the defensive efficiency, that's very high rating. Plus 10 on the ZR, another very high rating. So they're doing it with run scoring, they're doing it with great pitching, and they're doing it with great defense. Let's look at the park. So we've got a lefty park here. But one thing that probably is underplayed in terms of its importance is the decision that managers make about their extra base hits, about their doubles and triples. And you see that Sydney here is going with neutral doubles and triples. And I'll tell you firsthand that there's a huge difference between having a .5 there, having a 1 there, and having a 1.5 there in terms of what players you can use, in terms of what observed statistics you're going to get. And so you see Roscoe here rocking a 1.0. Let's look at the players. What you see here is a on-meta lefty cheese build. These are the players you'd expect to see for a lefty cheese team. Now, the one decision point that could have a pivot point would be Connor for Gehrig, the new card. He's sticking with Connor. Old Faithful, old and steady. You also see Trust Speaker. So this is where the new Barry Bonds could or would fit in, and you see that Roscoe's sticking with Speaker. So meta left cheese build, top to bottom, exactly what you'd expect to see. From a pitching perspective, we have a much different deployment than from Antarctica, where you have just about everyone on staff getting starts, and then innings pitched not necessarily correlating to those that are receiving the most games started, which tells you that a lot of starts might just be opens. And so as we look at Spawn and Glavin, we see both of them received a high number of starts and a high number of innings. So those more often than not are going to be your traditional starts. Whereas Price and Sale here, 18 and 19 starts respectively, only log in 36 and 45 innings. So if we look at a game log, for example, we see that Price only had 3 traditional starts the entire season, and other than that was either a 3 through 9 batter-faced opener. And as we look at those 3 traditional starts, only one of them went well. And that was coincidentally the one game that Price got a win over the course of the season. So we know that Roscoe is going to be playing with being creative with his openers, his followers, his starting pitcher innings. You see that Pedro only got 9 starts over the course of the season, but did log 157 innings. And a similar story can be told for Walter Johnson. So heads up, keep an eye out for Sydney and their creative pitching use. We'll see how that plays out. Let's look at their path. How'd they get here? 3-0 over the Pappenheimers in round 1, 4-1 over the Grackles in round 2, and then a sweep in round 3. Sydney is yet to be tested. They're sitting here at 11-1 in the playoffs, walking in against a battle-tested, battle-hardened Penguins team who's had to go to 7 games in back-to-back series. So once we get an updated sim here, we can check pitcher rest. But before we do that, let's look at Roscoe's history. So Roscoe does not have 15 weeks in Perfect League like Antarctica does, but he does have a history that suggests he belongs on this stage. Not only does his team have number one run scoring and number one run prevention on the season, but this is his fourth week in the Perfect League. Second opportunity to be in the Perfect League playoffs. Zero-time champion, looking to change that tonight. But this is a DLL team. This is a team that not only came from the DLL, but as you look at all these diamond win rates here, these diamond historical seasons, Roscoe was in the DLL playoffs way more often than he wasn't, including this wild streak here. From the moment of his last Perfect League relegation, he's made the playoffs every season, including a lot of division titles. EVC and NYC asking me to remind what the DLL stands for. It stands for Diamond Legends League, and it is a friends list group of some of the toughest teams in Perfect Team. And so you see Sydney here routinely winning 95 plus in DLL. That tells you that they are one of the very best teams in the Perfect League ladder. All right, let's quickly get an updated sim here, and then we'll be able to look at pitcher rest. I'll let you guys see me when I go to my Be Right Back cam. So while I'm pulling this up, let's get in the chat. Who do you guys think is going to win? And in how many games is it going to take them to do so? Is it Sydney? Is it Antarctica? Is it a 4-gamer, a 7-gamer, somewhere in between? It's time to pick your pony. Yuka's got me in 4. Joe A is setting the Vegas odds here with Sydney at the minus 240 favorite. All right, so we have an updated sim. We're 3 minutes away from game 1. Before we get to it, let's quickly look at the pitching situation for each team from a rest perspective. We know that Roscoe finished early, but it took Antarctica every bit of 7 games to get there. Even so, they're in pretty good shape from a bullpen rest perspective. From a starter's perspective, they only have Spawn and Maddox to turn to here. And we are in Sydney, a lefty park. So what that would typically mean is that you'd prioritize Spawn over Maddox to go into that ballpark. Maddox would be a bit more vulnerable, especially when facing left-handed bats. And then as we quickly look at Sydney, I'm guessing they're going to be hundreds across the board, and they are. So let's quickly get our team-by-team view up here in our matchup analyzer. So if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see these teams and some key statistics matched up against one another. And Sydney takes the cake every single offensive category over Antarctica, including the defensive category of play percentage. And then from a pitching perspective, Sydney with a wildly better ERA, whip, and favorable percentage rating. 54, dwarfing 41 for Antarctica. So the observed statistics for the regular season would tell you that Sydney is a favorite going into this one. So let's see what we got in the chat. We've got Roscoe in 6. DRC in 4. Chiefs in 4. I think the Chiefs are playing the Browns right now, which might be what he's talking about there. Us in 7. Dogberry rooting for a drama-filled World Series. Penguins in 7. Sydney in 5. Penguins in 6. Sydney in 5. Penguins in 7. Coach Ruffy's got a big bet on the Pens. Azandra going with Sydney in 6. Sydney in 5. People asking about me singing a Disney song. Now, I don't know that I've ever shared this about myself, but I am a Disney addict. I love me some Disney. I love going to Disney, Disney World and Disneyland. I love watching Disney movies. My wife's a Disney travel agent. Like, I am a Disney-aholic. So if you guys want to hear some Moana, you guys want to hear something, maybe this isn't the channel for it. I'll go ahead and get the DRC channel DMCA'd for me singing Disney songs on it. But you are barking up the right tree if that's the type of fun you're looking for. I rock this looking for Mulan. I know the Mulan songs. They're just not my favorite. They're not my favorite. All right, we should have a sim. We should be knocking on the door of a sim right here. Give me 1 second to pull this baby up. Yeah, me and the family, we watched Soul, the new movie that came out. What did that come out on? Christmas Day? Right around there. That was a good one. Oh yeah, Mac Jack's alluding to how we Disney. So when we go to Disney, we're not there just to kind of have fun, go where the day takes us. No, we are there with a mission. We are there with a plan. We know what ride we're going on, in what order. And we tactically go about dominating that particular day. When my kids were younger, maybe we took it a little bit easier. But now that they're all of age, riding age, or of at the point where they enjoy even the thrill-oriented rides, yeah, we go for it. All right, we've got our sim. We have got our sim. And we do see Warren Spahn pitching here for the Sydney Blue Sox. What do you guys think? Do you guys like me being in the top right corner? I've also noticed that our text and our graphic overlay is not populating. Let's make sure that works. There we go. All right, so let's get this thing started. We see that Sydney's Warren Spahn is going to need to face 5 right-handed bats. Now, in this stadium, we know that lefties are boosted. Their batting average is boosted. Their power over the fence is boosted. So we'll get started here versus Ty Cobb of the Penguins. As Sydney's got a blimp-like view for us. The pitch. Fly ball, center field. Coming in is Mays. He'll squeeze it. And this 2062 World Series is underway with an F8. We go top 2. Still got Sydney's Spahn on the mound. We've got Soto at first. Soto on first base with nobody away. And Mays at the plate. Full count on him. Wine in the pitch. Line drive left field base hit. Soto touches second, and he's not stopping there. Heading to third without a throw. And we've got the Penguins in business here in the second. Next up is Tris Speaker, and that's a perfect opportunity for us to get our first use of the matchup analyzer so we can see how this thing is going to aid our understanding of the broadcast tonight. So the way this works is we can put in any pitcher and we can put in any hitter and see how that particular matchup played out during the regular season. So we'll put Warren Spahn, face of the franchise, versus left in there. We'll put Tris Speaker, legend, versus left in there and see what it looks like. In this particular matchup here, you do see that it favors the pitcher, as Warren Spahn has a 3.36 FIP in plate appearances versus left-hand bats, whereas Tris Speaker is a -9 bat value. But first run scoring opportunity here in the series. Let's see what happens. Full count. The pitch. Runner stealing. Strikeout. Throw him out. Double play. Ivan Rodriguez squeezes strike 3. Fires down to second. And retires a Willie Mays who is on his way with the pitch. A devastating turn of events for the Penguins here in the second. Their rally now settles down to whether Nap LaJoie can come through. You see Nap's numbers in the bottom right-hand corner. Slug-heavy profile. 1-1 count on him, the pitch. Line drive up the middle, base hit. And the Penguins are on the board. They strike first here in the 62 series with a run across here in the second. Next up, Ozzy Smith. He's worked a 3-0 count. The pitch. He walked him. Spawn with some uncharacteristic wildness, especially against a bat like Ozzy Smith, which doesn't really have much punch to him. Next batter is Brooks Robinson. As we have Sydney trying to get on the board themselves. 2-1 count. The pitch. Grounded to second. To short one across. Double play. 4-6-3 double play as Honus Wagner comes across the bag firing. And that ends the threat for the Blue Sox there in the third. We go top five now. Up comes Tony Gwynn. He bats with Ty Cobb on second base and one away. The pitch. Line drive, base hit right field. Around second is Gwynn. Is he going to try to score? He is. And he will, without a throw, make it 2-0 Penguins here in the fifth. Bottom seven. Sydney's starting to run out of outs as they're looking to scratch across and dent the score sheet for the first time here in this series. They've got Wade Boggs to lead off this seventh inning against Warren Spahn. Wade Boggs, one of the best hitters in Perfect Team, and does a good job of holding his own versus left-hand pitching. You see he has that .329 on-base percentage in the bottom right corner of your screen in the matchup analyzer. And in a ballpark like this, that is floating the batting average and floating the power, he'll even do better than this. 1-1 count, you see the outfielders shifted to the opposite field. Wind in the pitch. Little dinker to third. Charging fielding. He's got no throw. Rogers Hornsby came in, gloved it, was unable to transition to the hand, and that's going to equate to a Wade Boggs leadoff single here in the seventh. Next batter up is Rogers Hornsby. For the first time, we'll get to toggle that Warren Spahn matchup analyzer over to his versus right profile, and we'll also load up the Rogers Hornsby versus left. Doesn't get much greener than that for Hornsby, as he's rocking a .908 OPS versus left-hand pitching over the past 3 seasons of Perfect League. A positive 31.31 bat value, and looking to do some damage here to get the Sydney Blue Sox on the board. Wind in the pitch. Little looper to short. Ranging over is Honus Wagner, and he squeezes it one away. Next batter is Cap Anson. Cap Anson was the one batter that stood out on Sydney's team that doesn't really typically belong as part of a lefty cheese build. He occupies the DH versus left only. 1-0 count on the pitch. Line drive down the left field line and down. Holding at second will be Boggs, and we've got 2 on and 1 out here in the seventh. Spahn will stay in the game to face Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb, one of the best hitters in Perfect League. We'll put up his numbers for you to review here. A slightly negative bat value versus left-hand pitching, but in a park like this, I'd expect it to go slightly positive. 0-2 count on him. Wind in the pitch. Lines it to left. And grabbed. Tris Speaker ranges over, puts the leather on it, and we now have 2 away. Sydney's last hope for this rally here is Willie Mays. Willie Mays, another hitter who does much better work versus left-handed pitching. You see his numbers in the bottom right corner of your screen now. An .848 OPS, and he will be swinging into a heavy shift with Nap LaJoie right behind second base. 0-1 count. The pitch. Looper to left. Coming in Speaker, and he grabs it. Sydney leaves 2 stranded here in the seventh. And we'll head to the 8th, still scoreless, as they trail 2-0. Top 8 now. We've got the Penguins looking to add to their lead. They'll have to do it versus Walter Johnson, a dynamic relief pitcher. Faces Rogers. Hornsby here, the pitch. Hornsby lines it up the middle, a base hit. A 1-out single from Hornsby will bring up Juan Soto. Soto apparently doesn't do much, as we are now transitioned to the bottom of the 8th. Still on the hill for the Antarctica Penguins is Warren Spahn. And he's facing Ivan Rodriguez. We saw Ivan Rodriguez with the strike him out, throw him out double play earlier this game, flashing really where he adds his most value with the glove. But he's got an opportunity here with the bat, as you see his observed statistics in the matchup analyzer for you now. 0-2 count on him. Wine in the pitch. Strikes him out swinging, but it gets away from the catcher. And Pudge will beat the throw to first. Ivan Rodriguez strikes his way aboard. And he will be there now as Ozzy Smith comes to the plate. The door cracked here for the Blue Sox to get a little something going in the 8th with a fortunate bounce. 0-1 count on Smith. The pitch. Up the middle. Fielded throw. Double play. A tailor-made one-hopper hit to Honus. Flips it to Knapp. And then on to Soto to finish the inning. We go 9 now. Into this game for the Blue Sox is Bob Feller. And his first batter he'll face is Tris Speaker. This is a matchup here, and we'll show it to you in the analyzer, that leaves you somewhat vulnerable, as Bob Feller does not do too well versus left-handed batting. Major advantage to the batter here, as you see Feller really struggle with his walk rate, his whip. His FIP is approaching 7. And in a ballpark like this, which blasts up the power and the average, this is a dangerous matchup here for the Blue Sox, as they're looking to keep this game at 2-0. Wine in the pitch. Speaker gets into one, deep to right. Forget about it. Tris Speaker with our first home run of the 2062 World Series, and one that's very welcome for the Antarctica Penguins as they add an ever so crucial insurance run, making it 3-0. We go bottom 9 now. Warren Spahn still in the game, working on a shutout. He'll face Wade Boggs here with 1 away in the 9th. Wine in the pitch. Ground ball base hit down the right field line. It's going to be extra bases for Boggs. Heads into second base. He'll slide there with a double. And he represents one of the 2 base runners the Blue Sox need to bring up the tying run. Next batter is Rogers Hornsby. You have to wonder just how patient the Penguins will be with Warren Spahn now. He's only given up 4 hits all game long, but this is the World Series, and you've got a rested bullpen. At what point do you pull in your closer? Or in their case, one of their 3 stoppers. We know that Hornsby is deadly dangerous versus left-hand pitching, as we'll show you in our matchup analyzer now. This is a matchup which heavily favors the batter, even in a park like this. 2-2 count on Hornsby. Big moment here in the 9th. Wine in the pitch. Hornsby laces a single up the middle. Boggs around third. He'll stop there. No sense in taking any chances, as his run only matters in the context of getting 2 additional behind him. Spahn will stay in the game as Cap Anson comes to the plate. Spahn really being given a lot of faith. The Sydney Blue Sox crowd comes to their feet as they're trying to root on Cap Anson to come up with a base hit here. A long one would tie it. 1-1 count the pitch. Ground to the third. Over to first, not in time! Anson beats it out on an infield single. That scores a run. And we now have the tying run aboard. Go-ahead run, winning run at the plate. And into the game comes Noodles Hahn. So Noodles Hahn will come on and replace Warren Spahn. And Ty Cobb will be our batter as the Sydney Blue Sox are trying to make it all work and make it all come together here in the 9th inning. 0-1 count on Cobb. Big moment here in game 1. The pitch. Fly ball, deep right center. Back. That ball's out of here. Ty Cobb has walked it off in game 1. 441 happy feet for the home fans. A game where they enter the 9th inning down 3-0 and come away victorious, stealing one here from the Penguins. We thought that the hook on Warren Spahn was a little bit generous, and Ty Cobb makes him pay as he's able to drive in the runners, put a board on Spahn's watch. What a game. As we look at the box score here, we see it looks like a classic Spahn on Spahn game. But hiding within that box score is really how that 9th inning played out. Spahn was lights out into the 9th. And then just got a little base runner happy. You had Boggs get aboard with that double, and then Hornsby single to center. At that point, I think I would have gone to one of my stoppers there for that Cap Anson at bat. They didn't. Spahn pitches to Anson. He gets the infield single. And then Cobb, facing Noodles Hahn, puts one in the seats and puts one in the win column for the Sydney Blue Sox. What a game. Wait till next year requesting the win probability added cliff, and you see it there. What was a progression towards victory for the Penguins becomes a devastating defeat. We'll go ahead and update the graphic in the top right of our screen here. Give the Blue Sox game 1. Wow, what a game 1. We start the World Series with a walk-off. What do we have in store for game 2? Let's find out as we load up our next sim, which should be in as of 2 minutes ago. All right, let's check if we got it, and we do. Let's load it up. We come right back to the ballpark. If you're the Penguins, you had game 1 in the palm of your hands and let it slip away. You need to win this one. All can feel just well heading back home, sitting on a 1-1 split, knowing you've got 3 straight games in your ballpark. If you're the Blue Sox, you've got an opportunity here to keep home field advantage. Take a 2-0 lead in this series and feel like you're playing with house money in the process. We'll set this game up with Tom Glavin on the hill for the Blue Sox, and he's facing a lineup with 4 lefties in it for the Penguins. Looks similar to our lineup from yesterday that Spahn faced. We start this game with an 0-2 count on Ty Cobb. Wind in the pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Glavin starts it off with one of his rare strikeouts. We go bottom 3 here, and boy, have we found ourselves with a rally. We've got Steve Carlton into this game here in the 3rd. Not something that I expect to see. And he's facing Brooks Robinson. We'll load up our matchup analyzer here as we try to expect what we're going to find with this at bat here. So we got bases loaded, full count. We see the infield for Antarctica is shifted around with Knapp on the wrong side of second base. And then in our matchup analyzer, we see that Carlton is a touch wild versus right-handed batter. 6.4 walks per 9. We see that he has a hard time with the long ball as well. 1.39 homers per 9. Very high whip, very high FIP. Huge opportunity here for Brooks Robinson and the Blue Sox. We see Brooks Robinson himself is a low OBP slugger here that plays in the middle infield. Full count. Wind in the pitch. He walked him. Steve Carlton walks in the first run of this game and finds himself in the same trouble he was in before. So Brooks Robinson walks. Wade Boggs appears to walk as well, making it a 2-0 game, bringing up Rogers Hornsby. We've seen it already a couple times tonight. This is not the matchup that you want to have if you are the Antarctica Penguins. Bases loaded, infield drawn in versus the best hitter in the game versus left-hand pitching. The pitch. Ground to third. Goes home with it. Gets one. Over to first. Double play. A 5-2-3 double play. At least for the moment. Holding off any further damage here for the Penguins. And that is all the damage in that inning. And now we get into our time machine and we whip all the way to the top of the 9th with 2 outs. And we find ourselves with Greg Maddux on the hill for the Sydney Blue Sox. We'll show you him. And he's facing Ty Cobb, who is the best hitter in the game versus right-hand pitching. Advantage to the hitter here. 2-0 lead that Sydney's protecting. 3-1 count on Cobb. Wind in the pitch. Fly ball center. Shallow. Charging. And making a diving grab is Willie Mays. The Sydney Blue Sox win Game 2 via a one-hit pitching performance for their team and ending the game on a Willie Mays diving catch out in center field. So how did that happen? How did we go from the 3rd inning to the 9th inning that quickly? Well, let's look at the box score. We see that Tom Glavin went 9 batters for Sydney. Dominant. 2 2/3 innings. Gave up a hit. Got a strikeout. Nothing else going. And then Maddux came in. And Maddux, even more dominant. 6 1/3 innings. No hits. No walks. 4 strikeouts. What kind of lineup was he pitching into here? So we see that he was facing 3 left-handed bats. 4. Yeah, 4 left-handed bats and was able to get through them. Normally, Ty Cobb, Speaker, Soto, and Gwynn against Maddux in that ballpark would be a recipe for some trouble, but not today. The balls that were put in play found their way into leather, found their way into outs. And then on the Antarctica side, we see it was a Steve Carlton traditional start. So Antarctica saw the ballpark, a ballpark that favors lefties, sees that Sydney is running lefties into lefties regardless. And we know that Carlton is a dominant pitcher versus left-handed bats. And so just rolled out a traditional Carlton start. You see the wildness there, 4 walks in 6 innings. But did his best to minimize the damage. I mean, 6 innings and 2 earned. There's nothing wrong with that. Price and Hahn close out the game, each going scoreless. But just one of those games where you didn't hit them where they ain't. And you find yourself down 2-0 in the series. So, we have an empty sim here in 5 minutes, as that will be our travel day, as we're going to the frozen tundra that is Antarctica, as we expect Chris Sale to face off with Pedro Martinez in Game 3. So we'll use this opportunity to look at some stats. So who was good in Perfect League this year? And before I look at that, let's update our graphic and give the Blue Sox Game 2. So Yuka, what is the definition difference between desert and tundra? That's a good question. Let's look at some stats. All right, so this is a new graphic for you guys. Brand new, fresh off the presses. And so similar to the other ones that I have for you, this is the pitcher version. So this will tell you who had the best ERA in Perfect this season. And I've got a bunch of splits that I can use. What the split that I'm currently using is everything. So all pitchers, relievers, starters versus left versus right. And so you see that for this season, Liam Hendricks was the best pitcher in Perfect League at run prevention, 3.47 ERA. You see Bieber right behind him, Schoolboy Rowe. Now, these are small sample sizes here, so I'd stop short of saying that Liam Hendricks is the best pitcher in Perfect Team. But for a week, he was. Mariano Rivera, Hoffman right behind him there. So what you're seeing is at the very top of this ladder are relievers. These are relievers in more favorable matchups than starters get with their stuff boosts. It is notable to see Tom Glavin here at 4.2. You know what? Let's just whittle it down to relievers only. So if we just look at true relief appearances, here's what we get. Carlton to the top of the list, 333. Hendricks right behind him. Look at that, Greg Maddux, 347. It's a little surprising, but 250 innings, so take it with a grain of salt. You see Mo and Hoffman there. Pedro getting a good run in the bullpen, 750 innings. Chris Sale. Here's our new Bruce Sutter card, 389. Interesting that Walter Johnson did not show as well. You know, his history has been absolutely dominant in the pen. I wonder if a lot of this number is where he was actually the starter, but because of the opener-follower mechanic, he's getting labeled as the reliever. So let's flip our tables here, go over to starter. So these were the best pitchers in Perfect League when starting. So Schoolboy Rowe with a very interesting 220 inning pitch sample here at 3.56. And then right behind him, not right behind him, but next is Tom Glavin. So Glavin is a pitcher that needs a lot of things to be in his favor. He's someone that gives up a lot of contact to right-handed batters. And so it is in your benefit to shield him, to try to find opportunities where he's batting in or pitching in ballparks where right-handed bats are nerfed to power, to average, or both, where those extra base hits are not blasted, second or doubles and triples. And if you do that well, you can get results like this, where he was the second best starter in Perfect League this week. Right behind him was Warren Spahn, Pedro, right at that 4.3 mark. And then look at this. I find this so interesting. Look at Maddux Legend versus Face of the Franchise Maddux. Not only is Legend better, he's a ton better. A ton better. 4.4 and 5.4 are basically miles apart. And this wasn't some super small sample. This is 4,000 innings versus 1,200. Now, if we drilled into this, we might find that the face of the franchise Maddox was facing more lefties. We might find that there are extenuating circumstances to the deployment, which underscore and really are driving why we see this observed huge delta between them. But I've never seen the delta between the two be as big as it is this week. All right, so we've looked at starters, we've looked at relievers. Let's look at versus left. So here are the best pitchers in Perfect League versus left. Versus left-handed batters. You see Hoffman actually as number 1 over Carlton, but Price right behind him. Rivera right behind him. So if you're in late game and you're trying to prevent a lefty from doing damage against you, these are the 4 guys that did it best this year. Looks like Greg Maddux, face of the franchise, really struggled versus left-handed batters. That ERA down at 5.36. Brutal. And as we toggle over to versus right, we've got our buddy Hendricks right at the top again. Rivera, Hoffman behind him. Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton, being a very high stuff, very questionable control guy, is a high risk, high reward proposition. He can oftentimes strike his way out of trouble, strike his way around the walks and the free passes that he gives, and other times he can't. So it looks like in this particular Perfect League season, he did a pretty good job of dancing around trouble. I'm a little surprised to see Pedro's versus right so quote-unquote bad. I mean, 4.13 is pretty good, but I would have expected it to be sub 4. Clemens being so bad on this list is interesting. Clemens is someone who's being used as a right-handed starting pitcher frequently, and him being so average or below average versus right-handed batters makes me wonder if the optimal strategy against him might be to load the lineup with more righties than you typically do. So these are your Perfect League pitcher stats. Perfect League pitcher leaderboard. If you have any questions about players you want to check out, let me know, and we can surf that while I load up this next sim. And this next sim, again, is going to be an off day. As we load up Perfect League day number 216, with the Sydney Blue Sox leading 2-0 over the Antarctica Penguins in the 2062 Perfect League World Series. That game 1 is just such a tough way to lose a ball game. Lead it from pole to pole, going to the 9th with a 3-0 lead, starter still on the mound, and you're unable to finish it off. All right, so let's look at our bullpens. So first we'll start with Antarctica. So they head into game 3 with just about everyone ready to go. It's just Spawn and Carlton off the table for them. Starters for game 1 and game 2. So all option at their disposal. As we look at Sydney, similar story. One exception being Maddox, who came on in relief of Tom Glavin. Maddox is unavailable here for Game 3 and likely unavailable for Game 4 as well. And then Walter Johnson's right on the fringe. When I see a pitcher down at 80% pitch fatigue, I really don't want them in a game, but if I need to, if push comes to shove, I'm okay with it. So let's remember, we're shifting ballpark too. We are going from a lefty park to a nuanced park. And let's look at it here. So we've got our home runs completely minned out. So you'll see less home runs in this ballpark than you would a neutral park. You'll see significantly less than a maxed out park. The batting average is slightly above average, with righties getting just a touch more love than lefties. And then the extra base hits here, the doubles and triples, are through the roof. So as we prepare for Game 3, the scheduled starters are Chris Sale for Sydney, who, if you guys remember the setup of this series, we saw that Chris Sale did not start as a traditional pitcher. So as we look at Sydney here, over the course of the season, Chris Sale went over 10 batters faced only twice. So I would not expect Chris Sale to be out here pitching 6-7 innings. I would expect we see something like a 9 batter faced opener leading into Pedro. Pedro has not pitched yet for the Blue Sox. He has not pitched yet in this series, and he logged the second most innings for the team with some really great numbers, a 3.32 ERA during the course of the season, even though he logged a pretty horrendous BABIP of 3.20. So my money would be on Chris Sale leading into Pedro Martinez in short order, and then Pedro taking it from there. So the Penguins, they're really needing a win here. They need their Pedro to outpitch the combination of Sale and likely Pedro here to get themselves into the win column and not be walking into long sim territory before this series really even gets underway. Let's take a look at their lineups. So here we overlay the versus right and versus left lineups. So if we start the game with Chris Sale, then we'll be looking at 7-day lineup permitting. We'll be looking at this host of characters here, starting off with Knapp, Hornsby, and Cobb. Yeah, and Luke asking in the chat, what's the logic behind Nuance Park in terms of favorable rosters? So if you're floating your average in your park and you're exploding your gaps and you're minning out home runs, then you're looking to increase the value of BABIP, increase the value of balls in play. And so in so doing, you're likely leaning on hitters like Gwynn, Boggs, guys that are putting the ball in play and are deriving most of their value with singles that could turn into doubles, and less so with them hitting the ball over the fence, which is something that they're not going to do any more than 10 to 15 times a season anyway. So who wins Game 3? Do we have the Penguins denting the score sheet here, getting their first win of the series? Or do we have the Blue Sox going up 3-0? JPack14 in the chat saying that he rode the same side opener. Rode that to gold this week. Congrats to you. Wait till next year predicting a Penguins win here. I think I saw some people announcing their Diamond Championships. That's another thing we like to do on this show. Let's hear who is heading up to perfect next week. Was it Crazy Katie? I think I saw you heading up, in the Cleveland Spiders coming up from Dishnet's League. Let's hear from all of our Diamond League champions. Who is on their way up? Who is taking the spot of the people scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Who is going to be on this show next week fighting for that Perfect League World Series trophy? This is how the standings played out this week. You see that Manchego Cheese was the top of the sugar pile from a win perspective at 102. Second in run differential at 136. Behind only the Sydney Blue Sox. Topeka Defender, managed by Max Fire. Right behind him at a 131 run differential. There's some real tough teams that found themselves on the wrong end of the relegation Puma. Coretown Comets, one of the managers that does a heck of a job at lining up favorable matchups from a pitching perspective. We got the Defuniak Defunks, another team that's been imperfect a great number of weeks. Mackenzie Eagles. No shame in getting Puma'd in any given week. Yeah, wait till next year. Getting reverse swept in the LCS does not count. But I can empathize with you, as Mac Jacks took me out of the playoffs today as well. Speaking of Mac Jacks, did he win the DLL World Series? Is he on his way back to perfect for the first time in forever? The world has to know. Perfect League needs to prepare. No. So Mac Jacks loses the DLL World Series in back-to-back weeks. Last week, King Julian defeats him. And this week, TJ does. You'll get him next week, M-Dub. When the Puma has decided that you are its prey for the week, there's not much you can do. For the first time in forever. Yeah, so Mac Jacks hiatus from Perfect League it probably is pretty similar to what we saw from the Antarctica Penguins. The Penguins took 12 weeks off. I don't know what Mac Jacks hiatus is at right now, but it's got to be around there. I know that I haven't been imperfect for 9 or 10 weeks now. Two minutes to our Game 3 sim. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had a series start out 3-0. We had a series start out indicating that we were going to be done early, that we were going to be long simming before many people had finished their dinner. And then we ended up in Game 7. We will see what tonight has in store. Now, from our open, we know that the Blue Sox were the first team we've ever had on that were number one in run scoring and run prevention. And that is quite the cocktail. It's gotten them up to a 2-0 lead so far in this series as well. All right, let's hit the BRB and try to load this baby up. Chris Sale versus Pedro Martinez. On the other side of this sim. Not quite ready yet. So Mac Jack loses 3 one-run losses. You know, Mac, if you're going to knock me out of the DLL playoffs, could you just finish the job? Oh, man. I'd say for the last 4 Sundays, I put everything into trying to traverse that DLL playoff tree and work my way back into perfect. And, yeah, 0 for 4. 0 for 4. Never give up, never surrender. Bailey out of the park, sharing that the Magpies have beat the Aqua Sox. All right, we've got our game 3 sim in. Let's load this baby up. We've got Pedro on the hill for the Penguins. And we've got the Blue Sox rocking their VR lineup. Look at all those lefties. Now let's talk about why that might matter for a second. So what we'll do is we'll pull up Pedro Martinez on our matchup analyzer. So first we'll look at his versus right split. Look at that. You got a 343 FIP, a 1-1 whip. Does a great job at preventing the free pass, only 1.8 walks per 9. The homer is right at league average, and let's toggle over to versus left. And you see a lot more yellow here. Not a train wreck by any stretch, but the walks go up significantly. Strikeout rate comes down, the whip flows up above league average. So here tonight, he will face 9 left-handed batters as Ozzy Smith will bat lefty when facing him. We'll see if the Antarctica Pedro Martinez is up to the challenge. He'll start off the game with Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb, the gentleman who walked off game 1 with a 3-run homer with his team trailing by a couple, leads off this game with a little looping liner to Honus Wagner at short, 1 up, 1 down. We go bottom 1, and we've got the Penguins in business here. They've got Knapp at third, Hornsby at second, 1 away for Tris Speaker, batting up against Chris Sale. 2-2 count on him, the pitch. Little grounder to second, over to first, in time, but a run does score. So make it 1-0 Penguins. And you'll get a little cheer out of the home faithful here as they are trying to get their hometown team on the board here in the World Series. Top 2, though, and the Blue Sox got a little something cooking. Roger Connor at second, Joe Maurer at first, as Tony Gwynn strolls up to the plate. 2-1 count. Wine in the pitch. Fly ball center. Ranging over is Mays. He'll grab it. Come up firing to third. And no runner advancement. Now 1 away for Pop Lloyd. It wouldn't be a Pop Lloyd highlight if we didn't flash up his horrendous hitting totals. Pop Lloyd, known for his 108 range, not for his 654 OPS and negative 19 bat value versus right-hand pitching. But he does find himself here with a 3-1 count, with 2 aboard and 1 away. The pitch. Grounder to Pedro. Fields it. Second one. Unable to be completed for the double play at first as Pop Lloyd is fleet of foot. So that'll put runners at the corners and 2 away. So now we jump to the bottom of the third, and it looks like we've had a runner score. So the Penguins are on the board now, 1-0, and they're threatening to score some more, as they're not facing Pedro. We had anticipated that it would be Sale feeding into Pedro, and that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is Roger Clemens. So Clemens into this game. Clemens was one of those guys that we highlighted on the pregame stat rundown. And we highlighted him for his struggles versus right-handed batting. He's not facing a righty now, but he is facing Tris Speaker. Definitely a dangerous bat for anyone to face. Let's pull open the split here. So Clemens versus left. You see he's got the 4.46 FIP. Better than most right-handed pitchers. Clemens actually has a pretty unique backup card rating profile versus left-handed bats. Let's see if it can aid him out of this jam here in the third. 2-0 count. The pitch. That ball hit well into the left center field gap. That's going to split him. 1 run will score. Heading to third is Hornsby. He won't stop there. He's on his way to the plate. Here comes the throw. Not in time. A 2 RBI double for Tris Speaker gives the Penguins a 3-0 lead here in the third. Bottom 6 now. Clemens still in the game for Sydney and facing some more trouble. Gwynn at the plate. You see the matchup in the matchup analyzer. Definitely favors the batter. Crowd comes to their feet for this moment here. 3-1 count. Looking for an insurance run here in game 3. The pitch. Cranks that ball to left center field gap, and that ball is down. 1 run will score. Connor heading to third. He's not going to stop there. On his way to the plate. Here's the throw. Not in time. Make it 5-0 Penguins. $5-0 Penguins, and now we move to the bottom of the 7th. And whose turn is it on the highlight machine? Penguins again, and it's Ty Cobb facing Tex Houston. He's going to start this one off with a grounder to first that is unplayable for Roger Connor, and it is just meandering to the wall. So play it very, very gingerly by Tony Gwynn out in right field, and that allows Ty Cobb to work his way all the way to the third with 1 out here in the 7th. Next batter up is Knapp, looking for anything but a strikeout here. There's the pitch. Fly ball right field, hit well. Back, and gone! 398-foot homer from Knapp, giving the Penguins a 7-0 lead. We'll get some fireworks for that one. Fast forward to the 9th, and we are working our way to a complete game shutout here. Pedro Martinez still in the game for the Penguins. We talked about what a Herculean effort he had in front of him with a lineup of 9 lefties, and seemingly he has been up to the task as we find ourselves in the 9th, and he's sitting on a 9 or an 8-0 lead, looking for a double play to walk this one off. 0-1 count on Boggs. The pitch. Grounder to third. To second, 1. To first. Double play. And the Penguins resoundingly enter the win column here in game number 3. Eight 0 the final score, and the box will tell the gory details here as Pedro goes 9 shutout innings for Antarctica, yielding up only 4 hits and no walks into a lineup of 9 left-handed batters. An absolutely dominant clutch performance when it was most needed, and as you look at the record in parentheses here, you see that Antarctica's Pedro's 5-0 in the postseason. Let's look at that. We see it's been a postseason of a lot of innings logged and a lot of solid performances, none better than what we just saw. But 5 postseason wins for this Pedro, and just what the doctor ordered for Antarctica. On the other side, on Sydney's side, we see Chris Sale goes 9 batters, struggled. Gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. Coming in after him was Clemens. And he wasn't himself either. 4 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. Struggled with his control a bit. After him comes in Tex. Poured a little lighter fluid on top of the already burning fire. But by that point, it was all over but the shouting. And so we still haven't seen Sydney's Pedro. Will we see him in Game 4? And we've got Bender Guy 1 in the chat announcing that his Green Dragons are heading back to perfect for the second time after a dramatic Game 7 win in Diamond League 350. So everyone shout out to Bender Guy 1. Congratulations to you and best of luck next week. May you be the subject of our show. So David Price, our scheduled starter for Sydney. I have to believe Pedro comes on in relief of him, but we'll just have to wait and see. For Antarctica, we are scheduled to see Walter, and Walter struggled. Walter has not had the best postseason for Antarctica. As we look at those starts, we see a horrendous first outing. 2 2/3 innings, 5 earned. Pretty strong in the second outing with a quality start. But then another couple of bumpy rides. One against Elysian Fields 9, and then one against Tech. Before putting up the dominant win in Game 7, pushing them to this World Series. So which Walter will we get today? Which Walter will show up in Game 4? And then let's go back to David Price. So we don't expect him to have a long outing here. Let's look at what the postseason has been for David Price. He's had 2 outings, 2 games started. One was a 6-batter open, and one was a 9-batter open. The 9-batter one was dominant, 9 up and 9 down. I expect we'll get something along those lines here today. And then let's look at the bullpen to see who the candidates are to come in. So we've got Pedro still rested, waiting for his first World Series appearance. We've got Walter there as well. So almost a foregone conclusion that it's going to be one of them here in Game 4 as the primary follower. And look at that. My perfect point balance is exactly 93,000. That's incredible. I don't know why. It just stands out as something that I should take notice of. What does it mean? What does 93 mean? I know 42 is the secret to the universe. What is 93? $93 packs. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's 9 diamond packs and 1 gold pack. You know, I'm working my way to the bottom of my collection missions. So this list here was maybe 6 or 7 longer as of a week ago. I'm trying to figure out the cleanest route through what I have left, because there are some multi-mission cards here. And so you try to get the best bang for your buck and buying one card that's good for 2 or 3 missions. So let's load up some Walter Johnson stats as we prepare for that start for Antarctica. So I talked earlier about Walter Johnson being a great stopper, about Walter Johnson being a great reliever. And the reason we say that, and the mechanic behind why that is so, is that he gets such a significant stuff boost when put into the bullpen that his strikeout rate skyrockets. And you combine that or compound that by the fact that a reliever is getting a much higher favorable rating in terms of how often they're facing same-side hitters. And that can be the trick. That can be how you can see a huge improvement. So look in the matchup analyzer. This is Walter Johnson, the starter. And then I'll go ahead and toggle to Walter Johnson, the reliever there. Borderline night and day. So going from a 409 FIP to a 348 FIP. Going from a 6.7 strikeouts per 9, which is well beneath perfect league average, to 10.2. So definitely something that's very impactful. All right, let's go ahead and load up this sim here. So who's going to win Game 4? Do we have a 2-2 series after this? Are we going 3-1? Are we entering into long sim territory before the travel day? Yeah, thank you, Yuka, for clarifying the 42 there. You know, the first house I owned, the address was 42 and then the street name. And I hadn't seen the movie. I think it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at the time. And so, like, we had a house guest over to talk to us and, give us, like, a housewarming gift. And they're like, oh, my gosh, your address is 42. It's so perfect. That's amazing. And my wife and I had literally no idea what they were talking about and had to be handheld through that explanation. All right, Game 4 sim is in. I could have swore it was a movie. Maybe I'm digging myself further. All right, let's party. Let us party. So Hal Newhouser is our starter for the Penguins. We did not see that coming. We were expecting Walter Johnson, and we didn't get him. We've got Hal. Let's see how long we've got Hal for. But Hal Newhouser is pitching into a lineup with 8 left-handed bats. So my guess here is that this is a Hal Newhouser open, using the game's open follower mechanic. And he'll be here for a maximum of 6 hitters, but we'll see what happens. He starts off with Ty Cobb. Wine in the pitch. Little looper to left field. Ranging over his Tris Speaker. He squeezes it, and game number 4 is underway. We go top 3 now. Walter Johnson in the game for Antarctica as expected. And he finds himself in somewhat of a jam. He's facing Tris Speaker here with runners at the corner and 2 away. Advantage to the batter here. 3-1 count the pitch. That ball hit well. Deep left field. Heading back and gone. Get the sour cream and a guacamole because it's Oppo Taco time. Tris Speaker putting the Blue Sox up 3-0 with that 421-foot blast to straightaway left field. We go bottom 5 now. Antarctica now finds themselves down 4-0. They've only got 1 hit, and they are now facing the Sydney Blue Sox version of Walter Johnson. Now, this is not a matchup that you want to see if you're Ivan Rodriguez. Walter Johnson, a dominant reliever, even more dominant versus right-handed batters, and Ivan Rodriguez, not someone who can hit anyone, and especially cannot hit right-hand pitching. But they are showing us this highlight. This is on the highlight reel for a reason. So could we see something a little unlikely, something a little magical here for the Antarctica Penguins? Let's find out. Wine and the pitch. That ball hit well. Deep right field. Back. Oh! And he wraps it around the foul pole to right field. Fireworks and cheers for the Penguins as they get their second hit of the game, which comes as their first run, making it a 4-1 ball game. Still bottom 5. Pudge goes yard, and next up is Ty Cobb. 1-2 count on him. Wine and the pitch. That ball hit well to right field. Over the head of Tony Gwynn. He misplays it. Cobb just racing around the bases. He'll end up at third. Gwynn did not get a glove on that one. We're going to give him a triple, but that sure looked like a misplayed ball there by Tony Gwynn in right field. A missile launched off the bat of Ty Cobb on a 97-mile-per-hour fastball. All for naught, though. The runner doesn't score, and we fast forward to the 9th inning. And here in the 9th, we've got Walter Johnson still in the game for the Sydney Blue Sox, protecting a 6-run lead now. Facing Tris Speaker here with a 3-0 count, and swinging on a 3-0 count is Tris Speaker. The Penguins are down 6 runs, and Speaker swinging on 3-0. That's a mandatory benching. You shouldn't even have the bat in your hands. You're down 6 runs in the 9th inning. You should take 2 strikes there. Hilarious lapse of judgment there by Tris Speaker, swinging away on a 3-0 count. And he lines out to right field, ending the game and ending any hopes the Penguins had of pulling off a miraculous late 9th inning comeback as they fall to the Blue Sox 7-1 and now find themselves trailing 3-1 in the series. Let's look at the box scores and see how we got there. Okay, so we'll start with Antarctica. As we expected, Hal Newhouser was the opener, following the game's opener-follower mechanic, which in a situation like this, where Sydney had shown you that they were going to rock 8 consecutive lefties to start the game, Hal Newhouser and his very dominant versus left profile fits a whole lot better. And that actually is a use case where he should be very successful. Someone like a David Price, someone like a Steve Carlton, both of them would be great fits in that situation too. And Newhouser came up 6 up, 6 down, 3 of them via the strikeout. And then he gives way to Walter Johnson, who was the follower by the game mechanic. And Johnson just didn't have it. Johnson retired 9 batters. That's the good news. Bad news is he gave up 8 hits. Gave up 6 runs. Gave up that big-time dinger that we saw. And then after Walter Johnson was done, in comes Clemens. And Clemens was fine. 2 1/3, give up a run. 7 base runners, so he was dancing between raindrops. But got the job done. And then Price comes in for a very dominant 1 2/3 inning. How does this work? How does David Price have 1 2/3 innings and 6 strikeouts? Last I checked, 6 strikeouts is worth 2 innings pitched. So how did Price strike out 6 batters and not get 2 innings pitched? I'm sorry if no one else is interested in this, but I need to see what happened. All right. Price comes into the game, strikes out Connor, strikes out Maurer. Double. Okay, so he got a 4 strikeout inning. So Ozzy Smith struck out, reaches via the passed ball, and then Cobb strikes out. That's a big achievement in the regular season. Isn't it an achievement during the playoffs? We're going to have to ask Roscoe if he gets that beautiful power or perfect point. And I can't remember how many perfect points it is, but that's a tough one to get. I think it's called a 4K inning, or no, high def inning, I think is what it's called. Yeah, that's great. That's cool. All right, so that was Antarctica. And it's not Roscoe. It would be Antarctica getting that. So I misspoke there. So over on the Sydney side of things, we had David Price start the game, go 9 batters. And similar to Price's last outing, he was great. He put 8 of those batters down. 1 of them reached via free pass. And then Walter Johnson came in and took it the rest of the way and did a great job in doing so. 6 1/3 innings. Only gave up 1 earned run. Didn't walk anyone. And together, they hold the Penguins to one run over 9 innings. Make it 7-1 and make it a 3-1 series lead, which we'll update now in the top right corner of your screen. All right, so let's take inventory. We've got 4 minutes until our Game 5 sim starts. If the Penguins win, then we travel to Sydney. We leave the desert, not the tundra, as I was corrected on earlier today. We leave the desert of Antarctica, and we head to Sydney to play Game 6. If Sydney wins, whole thing's over. Sydney Blue Sox would win their first Perfect League World Series. The DLL would get to add another Perfect League to their resume. And the Antarctica Penguins will continue their search for their second Perfect League title. And what we're expecting in this Game 5 is a spawn versus spawn battle. So as we look at Sydney, his spawn more often than not is doing something resembling a traditional start. We see a couple of these low opens mixed in, a 3 batter faced here in August, a 7 batter faced in the playoffs, and then another 9er in June. Now, the big mystery with Roscoe is that we haven't seen Pedro this entire series, right? So we go to his pitching. Pedro, right here, best pitcher in the game. He's been hiding. He's been on the shelf this entire series. Now, has he been saved for just this punch-out opportunity here? Are we going to see Spawn open this game up, get a versus left lineup, and then let Pedro Martinez come in as the hammer and knife through it to win the Sydney Blue Sox the World Series? Could happen that way. Now, the alternative is just run Pedro as a starter, because we know that if Sydney loses this game here, you're heading back to your park, which is lefty juiced. And, I would guess that many lefty juiced parks managers prefer Spawn as if they had their druthers, their preferred starter. So we might just see Pedro come out here for Game 5 as a traditional starter and then save Spawn entirely for Game 6. I think that's the move. If it's me, I'm making sure that Pedro's pitching this game, and I'm saving Spawn for 6. We will be simming here in just a minute. Now, if the Blue Sox win, the sim will not return right away. The sim's going to take some sweet time to get here. So we'll see if the sim comes back immediately here or if we're going to have some time to sit on our hands. We have not looked at our batter stats yet for the week, so we'll be sure to get to that here once we have some time to fill, whether we're filling it for an off day as we are traveling back to Sydney, or we're filling it via the long sim. Let's put up some Warren Spawn numbers as we got 2 teams advertising that they're going to start him. So here's Warren Spawn as a starter. As you compare his numbers versus the perfect league average, He's right around average, with the exception of strikeout and walks. He strikes out less and he walks less. But being around perfect league average as a traditionally deployed starter is a very difficult thing to do that very few in the game can do. The perfect league average is really brought down by those relievers that are incapable of starting. Okay, so the sim should be in if we have one. Let's go ahead and make our first attempt at pulling it down. So we will go to be right back mode. Sydney is a team that I've shared divisions with in DLL, and they are no cupcake on your schedule, that's for sure. Searching for his first World Series win here tonight. All right, let's get to it. So we've got Antarctica not throwing Waller or Warren Spahn. We expected Spahn from them. We don't get Warren Spahn. Could likely be thinking the same way that we were for Roscoe, in that you want to save Spahn for Game 6 if there is one, as you walk into a lefty boosted park. Whereas here, this is a extra base hit boosted park, but it nerfs out the home runs. So maybe a slightly better matchup here for Maddox. Now, as we look at that lineup, for the Blue Sox, another deployment of the 8 lefties. So that is a tough lineup for a pitcher like Maddox, who gives up a lot of balls in play in a stadium that slightly boosts the average and extremely boosts the doubles and triples. But we'll see how it plays out here today. 2-2 count on Cobb as we get this one started. We see there are no batters carrying the fire emoji or the snowflake emoji as Cobb fouls this one. Giving chase is Juan Soto, and he grabs it, one away. We go bottom 1, and the first scoring opportunity pops up, and it's for the Penguins as Spahn is facing Tris Speaker here with Rogers Hornsby on second base and 2 away. The pitch. Line drive up the middle base hit. Hornsby around third. He's going to try to score, and he will without a throw. Penguins take the lead in Game 5 here in the first inning. We go top 4. Blue Sox looking to get on the score sheet themselves. We have the outfield shading Boggs to the opposite field. Tris Speaker on first, nobody out. The pitch. Fly ball to center field, hit well, and over the head of Willie Mays. Heading to third is Speaker. He's not going to stop there. He's going to try to score. Here's the throw. Not in time. Tris Speaker scores from first on the Wade Boggs RBI double, and we've got a brand new ball game here in the 4th. Still in the 4th, Boggs has worked his way to third base. Up now is Joe Maurer. He's got the infield drawn in and shifted with Pop Lloyd on the other side of second base. Facing off against Maddox here. We have not had Maurer in the matchup analyzer yet today, so let's pull him up. And then we'll contextualize him versus Greg Maddox. So Joe Maurer slightly below league average bat, but getting that out of a catcher is definitely a very big positive, as he's a high OBP catcher at that at 325. He'll look to line one through a hole here in the 4th. The pitch. Line drive to right field, base hit. That one's going all the way to the wall. Maurer on his way to second base. The throw is not in time. Wade Boggs scores, and the Sydney Blue Sox, trying to nail down this 2062 Perfect League World Series, now lead it 2-1 in the 4th. Still in the 4th, bring up Pop Lloyd. Maurer now on third and 2 away. The pitch. Infield ground ball fielded by Maddox. Over to first. Not in time. Pop Lloyd beats it out. Make it 3-1 Blue Sox on an infield single. Greg Maddox, typically cat-like and athletic off the mound in fielding his own position, unable to get to that one in time for the speedy Pop Lloyd. Bottom 4 now. Penguins looking to even the score, down 2. Juan Soto to the plate. We haven't seen him yet in this World Series. Let's pull him up. Now, Juan Soto is not someone that we ever get a ton of sample size on, but what small samples we typically have in data have all been pretty positive. As you see in this very small 137 plate appearance sample, Juan Soto has been dominant versus same side pitching. He faces Warren Spahn here. The pitch. He gets into that one. Deep right field. Forget about it. Spahn goes deep to right, tying this game. .428 feet on that hanging changeup that still hasn't landed. Make it 138 plate appearances with some really great returns for Juan Soto. Bottom 6 now, we've got a brand new ball game. Spahn still in the game for the Blue Sox, now pitching against Tris Speaker. Hornsby on first, nobody out. The pitch. Little ground ball, charging as a shortstop, fields it, has no throw. He's going to eat that one. Another infield hit in this ball game as Speaker beats that one out. It looks like the runner was picked off. No, it looks like Ricky Henderson came in to pinch run and then was thrown out stealing third. And now we still have Tris on first. We've got one away. And we've got Soto back at the plate. Still facing Spahn last time up with this exact same matchup. Soto put one into the seats. I think the crowd's coming to their feet for this one. Full count with Soto at the dish in a big moment here in Game 5. Here's the pitch. Ground ball up the middle, and it's booted. He fields it, throw to first, not in time. Ozzy Smith shifted over for Soto. Boots that ball. Unable to retire Soto after recovering. What could have been an inning-ending double play is instead an E6 that leaves the door open for Willie Mays. Now, Willie Mays, someone who does a lot of damage versus left-hand pitching. Crowd to their feet again, feeling the gravity of this moment. 1-1 count. The pitch. Grounder to third. Charging. Throwing in time. That's Wade Boggs coming in. Fielding and throwing in the same motion. Not able to get the lead runners, but able to get an ever so critical out here in the 6th inning and keep Willie Mays off the bases. So this rally now comes down to Knapp as he bats with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 2 away in the 6th. The pitch. Knapp flies it to left. Right there is Speaker. He grabs it, and that will end the inning here in the 6th. So the Penguins threaten, but fail to take advantage of the rare Ozzy Smith defensive miscue. We go top 7 now, and the Blue Sox looking to untie this game. And we've got Ken Griffey at the plate. We haven't seen him yet tonight, so let's get him into the matchup analyzer and figure out what to expect for him versus Greg Maddux. Ken Griffey, not known for his average, below average at on-base percentage as well, but where he shines is his ability to do things like putting the ball into the bleachers, getting those extra base hits that drive that slugging percentage, as his .734 OPS is right around league average for a left-handed batter. And in addition to having that ability to untie games like this one, he also delivers best-in-class center field defense. 3-1 count on him against Maddux in the 7th. The pitch. That ball hit well to center. Back goes the center fielder. Can't get there. Griffey on his way to second. He's got a 1-out double for the Blue Sox. Ozzy Smith to the dish now. Ozzy looking to make up for that threat that he created for his team last inning off his error. An opportunity to lace a single here and give his Blue Sox the lead. 1-0 count versus Maddox. The pitch. Ground to third. Diving stop. Unable to make a throw. So that'll be an infield hit for Ozzy Smith. We don't even know who the third baseman is. So it's Pop Lloyd. So Ricky Henderson came in to pinch run, and then Pop Lloyd came in to replace Henderson on defense. He's able to make the glove stop there, but not able to make a play on the speedy Smith. So now Maddox finds himself in a world of hurt. He's got runners at the corners, one away, and he's got to deal with this tough customer at the plate. Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb of the 295, 378, 490 triple slash versus right-hand pitching. A positive bat value of 24 per 600 plate appearances. He will bat with an infield shift here and the opportunity to really make an imprint on this game. The pitch. Grounded to second. Runner does not attempt to score. So Griffey, not running on contact, sees the ball hit right to the second baseman. Knapp holds his bag. Knapp gets the batted ball runner, Ty Cobb, at first. And now we'll have second and third, 2 away for Tris Speaker. 1-2 count on Speaker as Maddox is trying to work his way around this jam here in the 7th. The pitch. Grounded to first. Fielded, and they'll take it to the bag himself. And that ends the threat here in the 7th. Antarctica Penguins fans love every second of it. We go bottom 7 now. Spawn still in the game for the Blue Sox. And he's facing Ty Cobb with a 3-1 count. The pitch. Little blooper. Ranging over the first baseman, Soto, and he makes the grab. Connor, excuse me. It's Noodles Hahn time again. Noodles Hahn is in relief for the Penguins. Now, we've only seen him once in this series, and when we saw him, he was busy giving up a game-losing walk-off home run in Game 1 to Ty Cobb. Here he faces Wade Boggs to start off this 8th, and Boggs has himself a 3-1 count. Wind and the pitch. He walked him. So Boggs, known for his good on-base skills, demonstrates them there with a leadoff free pass versus Noodles Hahn, which is going to bring up Roger Connor, another guy we haven't seen yet in this series, so we'll show you his stats. Another lefty who does an admirable job of getting on base versus that same side pitcher, as he's worked historically a .322 on base percentage versus lefties. He's down in the count here 0-2 with Boggs on first. The pitch. Strike 3 called. Big strikeout for Noodles Hahn for Sydney, or for the Antarctica Penguins. Next up, Joe Maurer. Joe Maurer, a near league average bat versus right-hand pitching. But once you flip the script and make him face a lefty, he's wildly negative with the 206, 253, 334 triple slash line. Full count on him here in the 8th. Wind and the pitch. Strike 3 called. Noodles Hahn has stringed together a couple of huge strikeouts here in the 8th. Only one man standing between Hahn and getting out of this jam, and that's Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn, another lefty, adept at hitting left-hand pitching. You see him with a 291 average versus same-side pitching. Standout within perfect league. He's worked the 3-1 count here. The pitch. Fly ball right field. That ball will get down. Heading to third is Boggs. The throw all the way through will not be in time. And the runners are now at the corners for Pop Lloyd. I love showing Pop Lloyd stats, but I love him even more when they're versus left. And I love him even more when he comes up in a critical make or break moment here. If Pop Lloyd comes through in this spot, he can literally win the Sydney Blue Sox the 2062 Perfect League World Series. Now, Pop Lloyd versus left-hand pitching is someone who you can expect about a 200 average, about a 495 OPS from, and to cost you 54 runs over the course of a full season. But crazier things have happened. And he's going to swing at this first pitch versus Noodles Hahn, and we'll see what happens. First pickoff throw, Gwynn back. Now Lloyd down on the count, 0-2. The pitch. Strike 3 called. Pop Lloyd grabs some bench, unable to get the bat off his shoulders here in the 8th, and we'll go to the bottom of the 8th, still tied. We are into high leverage moments as Bob Feller now into the game versus Tris Speaker. We've seen this matchup before. I'll put it in the analyzer again. If you're Sydney, you just want to keep runners off the bases here. And this is a tough matchup to do so, as Feller is very walk-happy versus lefties. He's behind in this count 3-1 versus Speaker, and he does lose him. So Speaker, a runner who can steal a base from time to time, especially given that you've got Feller on the mound and Maurer at the plate. He's on first as Juan Soto comes to the dish. Juan Soto, another lefty. Oh, 1 count on Soto. Infield shifted, the pitch. Line drive, base hit into the corner. The outfield was shifted the other way. It's going to take forever for them to get there. Racing to the ball is Gwynn. He's got it. He's coming up firing. The runner's going to try to score. Not in time. Give the Penguins the lead here in the 8th on an RBI double by Soto, where he takes third on the throw. Some fireworks and cheer for that for the Penguins faithful. So we go top 9 now. Noodles Hahn, who we know is deployed for the Penguins in the role of stopper, will be looking to do just that. And his first challenge here in the 9th inning is going to be working through Rogers Hornsby, who is the game's most deadly right-hand bat versus left-hand pitching. 2-2 count on him. Wind in the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Huge strikeout for Noodles Hahn. A critical out as he looks to slam the door here in the 9th. Next up, Ozzy Smith. 2-2 count on him. Wind and the pitch. Strike 3 called. Noodles Hahn stringing together strikeouts in buckets right here. A true clutch performance. He's got one more to go. One more to go, which would send this series back to Australia. And he's got the tough customer of Ty Cobb to get through. 0-2 count on him. Wind and the pitch. Strike 3 called. Catcher drops it, picks it, throws it in time, and that'll do it. The Antarctica Penguins win Game 5. Many heroes tonight, perhaps none larger than Noodles Hahn, bearing a significant responsibility late in the game in that stopper role, as he will walk away with the win, as he was on the hill when they were able to finally take the lead. So let's look at the box score. We had Maddox go 7 strong, quality start, was able to dance around 9 base runners in 7 innings. And then on came Noodles Hahn. And the only outs that Noodles Hahn liked were strikeouts. He picked up 6 punch-outs in only 2 innings, spreading around a hit and a walk. But a dominant performance as he entered a tie game and shepherded it to a victory. On the other side, Sydney had his Spawn. Now, we had anticipated that Spawn would be saved for Game 6 and that we'd finally see Pedro Martinez. But that is not the case. We are still looking for Pedro. Perhaps he's got an undiagnosed arm issue that they're keeping under wraps, so that Antarctica continues to have to consider if and when he'll get into a game. But Spawn goes 7, quality outing, almost mirroring exactly what Maddox had done. But Feller came in, and Feller got himself into trouble that he couldn't get out of, as Juan Soto hit the run-scoring double off of him to unbreak the tie. So now we have our travel day. The travel day sim should have come in 5 minutes ago. So let me load that up so we can look at our pitcher rest. As we look at game number 6 coming up. What a World Series we've seen so far. We're getting at least 6 games tonight. One sim away from knowing if we'll get 7. All right, so let's set up this game 6. What can we expect to see? The scheduled starters will be Spawn for the Penguins, as it appears that they swapped out Spawn and Maddox to account for ballpark. And then for Sydney, we've got Tom Glavin scheduled. We'll go look at the bullpens now. From a bullpen perspective, only Walter Johnson is unavailable. We've still got Pedro collecting dust, ready to be deployed at some point. Tex Houston, Greg Maddux, Mariano Rivera, Seaver, Feller, even Clemens, all eligible to be brought in. Now we'll look at how Tommy Glavin has been deployed during the regular season, and we do see that in every one of the playoff games this year, he has been openered. He has been deployed as an opener. The first start of the postseason was a 5-batter faced opener. The second through fourth were all 9-batter faced. So if we get something similar here in Game 5, then the question becomes who is going to piggyback with him? Who's coming in after Glavin? The best candidate of which is likely Pedro Martinez. But if it's not Pedro, then it could easily be Tex or Maddox, both ready to go. On the other side, we've got Warren Spawn scheduled to start for the Penguins. Besides Spawn, we've got Carlton fully rested as well. Now, do remember, we did see Carlton pitch a traditional start in Game 2 of this series. So he could potentially be lining up for a Game 7 if there is one. But we could also see Pedro Martinez, who will be fully rested for that Game 7 as well. Now, Noodles Hahn, the left-handed stopper for the Penguins, absolutely dominant in Game 5 and critical to getting that win across the line, will likely not be available here in Game 6. Only 70% pitch fatigue. That would be a gamble to throw him into a game. So we might see a different lefty elevated to that role here in the bullpen, whether it be David Price, Newhouser, or Carlton. So 6 minutes to the sim here. We have eaten up a lot of our time that we had planned on looking at hitting stats. Let's look at them now with the time that we have remaining. All right, these were your top hitters in Perfect League this year. Ty Cobb, number 1 hitter. 24,000 plate appearances with a 17 bat value. Right behind him, Tris Speaker. with a very impressive showing of 15, higher than his baseline that we've come to expect. We see Hornsby coming in at third with right around 12. Right behind him, Boggs, and then Connor. Connor with another impressive showing. 3 weeks ago, Connor was the second best bat in Perfect League. It was right around the time that the Lou Gehrig card dropped. And people wondered, is Lou Gehrig finally the card that knocks Connor off meta? And at least this week's statistics would suggest no. 7,000 Roger Connor plate appearances of him at an 11 bat value certainly would trump 3,000 plate appearances of Lou Gehrig at a 1 bat value. I do have our new hitters, the most recent batch of new hitters that have come in to affect the meta, highlighted. Bonds, Gehrig, and Knapp. And you can see them all here. Bonds had a much stronger performance in a partial week last week in Perfect League. This week in a full week, only logging a 5.55 is somewhat of a disappointment, as people were looking at him as a potential Tris Speaker replacement. And so they're right at the same number of plate appearances. Tris Speaker at 7,000, 9 above, and then Barry Bonds at 8 plate appearances below 7,000. And Tris Speaker producing 10 more runs of bat value. Tris Speaker is also going to produce more runs on the bases as a slightly better base runner. And Tris Speaker is also going to give you better defense in the outfield as a higher range outfielder. So there is some doubt as to whether Barry Bonds can be that impactful meta shifter in bumping Speaker off of left field. As far as Knapp is concerned, as true middle infielders, this -3 is not a bad number at all. As you look for other true middle infielders, you're not going to find one. There's nobody with more infield range than Knapp above this -3 number. So that's certainly interesting. Now, the conversation or the discussion is, are you willing to sacrifice the range of those that will hit worse than him, but will field significantly better, like a Brooks Robinson or a Rabbit Marinville or an Ozzy Smith? Let's say you're playing Belanger at short, Ozzy Smith at second, who's going to have a ton more range. So I'm not here to tell you that Knapp is your new second baseman. I'm just here to say that this bat performance here stands out amongst players who can at least pretend to give you a good second base. I mean, he's sitting right here with Jackie, and he's got 6 more points of infield range. All right, so these are the complete numbers. Now let's go splits. So we'll start with versus right, as we've got 2 minutes left before our sim. So as we look at versus right, same top 2 guys here, as Cobb and Speaker take the cake, with Cobb being a dominant 25.9. We see George Brett with a really strong showing here in 1,000 plate appearances, up at 19. Brett has always been a platoon bat, and he can have some weeks versus right-hand pitching where he really does some damage. Wade Boggs right behind him, Gwynn, 13.8. There's your Roger Connor. And here's Barry Bonds. So Barry Bonds at 11.56 versus his versus right-hand pitching, which is where he's going to do most of his damage. Now, the hope when that card came out with its I rating was that it would be able to log a strong on-base percentage versus left. We'll check that out after the sim. We see Gehrig at 4.52. And then we see our first right-hand bat here with Rogers Hornsby. Now, right-hand bats did worse this week versus right-hand pitching than they have historically. Normally, we have Hornsby and Anson much better than this versus same-side pitching. So having Anson just at league average is surprisingly low. Here's our Nap at negative 2.91. K-line. Willie Mays, another same-side bat here. And then Jackie Robinson. And then here's Brooks, who's getting talked about in the chat. There was a Joe DiMaggio mention. Here he is right here. Negative 14. As we continue to go down, as we look at our defenders, our glove first guys, Mark Belanger stands alone at a negative 54 bat value, but he's still going to give you the best shortstop defense around. Even better than Ozzy Smith. Ivan Rodriguez, another bat sieve, but someone who offers significant value with the glove. Campanella, disappointingly, right there next to Ivan. And again, this is versus right-hand pitching. That's the split that we're on right now. All right, let me try to load up this sim, and we'll see if we've got a quick one or if we're going to be hanging around for a while. So Bailey asking if ballpark factors in Perfect League tend to favor pitchers. So in my opinion, it favors both of them. You know, it's gonna be a help for both handed. You know, like the hitters are going to be impacted by it, the pitchers are going to be impacted. So I'd say that maybe from the perspective of being able to shield certain pitchers more meaningfully with your park factors, you know, maybe that's a nuanced way to answer yes to your question. But at face value, I would just say that it's very impactful and wildly important to understand the implications of it for both hitters and pitchers. All right, let's do Game 6. We have got the Sydney Blue Sox with Glavin on the hill to start this one. And he's pitching into a lineup with 5 lefties in it. He starts off this game against Ty Cobb, and Ty Cobb rips one right off the top of the wall. Cobb heading to second. The throw will not be in time. And an inauspicious start for the Blue Sox as Glavin lets a 91-mile-an-hour sinker get laced 400 feet to dead straightaway center. That run does not score. We move to the second. And here we have Willie Mays facing off against Tom Glavin. Infield shifted. Wind in the pitch. Line drive, base hit to left field. That one's going to the wall. Mays on his way to second. Throw will be to the cutoff man. Now both the first and the second inning have had a leadoff ringing double by the Antarctica Penguins. Here we have Glavin versus Lloyd. You know I can't resist a Pop Lloyd at bat. I just can't. I don't know how. Especially one versus left. So let's load it up. Let's load it up. Tom Glavin versus left. Pop Lloyd versus left. You see Tom Glavin. FIP of 3.15. Gives up no homers to lefties. Doesn't walk anyone. The K rate suffers a little bit, but he'll let you put it in play. It's just going to be a ground ball to the second baseman. And Pop Lloyd versus left doesn't do a ton of damage. 0-2 count. Wind in the pitch. Line drive, base hit up the middle. Around third is Mays. He's going to try to score. Here comes the throw. Not in time. Pop Lloyd puts the Penguins on the board. We go bottom 2, and the Blue Sox reeling from the unlikeliest of Pop Lloyd base hits. Maybe not the unlikeliest. Pop Lloyd versus David Price or Carlton would be a lot more unlikely than Glavin, who's going to give up contact, and in this park, that contact at 1.1 leading to something decent. So that was hyperbole. But I'm a broadcaster. That's what I do. So we've got Spawn versus Mays here, with Cobb on first, one away here in the second. The pitch. Line drive up the middle, base hit. Cobb was in motion on the play. He's going to try for third, and he will get there. The Blue Sox now in business with runners at the corners and one away. Up comes Tony Gwynn. 0-2 count on him. The pitch. Grounder. Spawn fields. Runner holds it third. Over to first. Not in time. Tony Gwynn beats it out. And now they're loaded. They're loaded for Ivan Rodriguez. The Blue Sox fans come to their feet looking for an early rally here. Pudge down on the count 0-2. The pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike three. Pudge swings through a 72-mile-an-hour curveball, taking a little helium out of this rally. But the helium's right back as Ozzy Smith's got them loaded. Still in their full count. Runners will be moving on the pitch. The pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike three. Warren Spahn with a couple of huge strikeouts when he needed them most, which caused the Blue Sox to strand three here in the second. We go bottom three now. Blue Sox still looking for their first run of the game. And they'll turn to Wade Boggs to do it here against Warren Spahn. The pitch, and that ball's hit well. Deep right center. Will it go? It will! Wade Boggs, touch 'em all! An uncharacteristic display of power for Wade Boggs as he goes 436 feet to the power alley in right center. We have ourselves a brand new ball game on an evening when they've got the champagne on ice in the locker room. We go top four. The Sydney Blue Sox, Greg Maddux now facing Tris Speaker. Not a matchup you love in this park. 0-2 count on Speaker. The pitch. That ball hit well. Deep right center. Right fielder not even moving. Forget about it. A crowd silencing display of power by Tris Speaker as he makes this a 3-1 lead for the Antarctica Penguins. Bottom six now. The Blue Sox trying to dig themselves out of the hole yet again. Down 3-1 now. We'll be working against Spahn with Wade Boggs. The pitch. Wade Boggs loops it over the first baseman's head and into right field. Boggs will hold at first and be happy with a lead-off single. Next up, Rogers Hornsby. Game's best hitter versus left-handed pitching, and he faces one here. 1-2 count. The pitch. That ball hit to left. Ranging over his Speaker. Makes the catch in fair territory. One away and a big out recorded by Spahn. Next batter up, Ivan Rodriguez. He's got 2 outs on him. The pitch. That ball hit well to left field. Goal! Ivan Rodriguez goes 391 feet to straightaway left. And the Blue Sox are back in this one. Make it 3-2 here in the 7th. An unlikely display of power from Pudge. Still in the 7th, very next batter, Ozzy Smith. 1-2 count on him. The pitch. Grounder to third. Fielded across and in time. Sides retired. We go to the 8th with the Penguins up 3-2. Top 8 now. Penguins having visions of trying to get that run back. Those started off against Maddux with Rogers Hornsby. The pitch. Line drive base hit left field. Hornsby rifles one through the hole between short and third. And the Penguins will have the leadoff man aboard. We see a pinch runner come in for Hornsby. Ricky Henderson into the game. He is now at second base. One away now for Willie Mays. The infield shifted with Brooks Robinson playing right behind the bag. Greg Maddux still in this game. The pitch. Grounder to third and through. Around third comes Henderson. He's going to score. On his way to second is Mays, and he slides in there safely with an RBI double. giving the Antarctica Penguins a much-needed insurance run here in the 8th. Tack on another insurance run, and the Blue Sox are now chasing 3 as Hornsby bats in the 8th versus Steve Carlton. 2-2 count the pitch. Line drive, base hit to right. That one's going to the wall. Hornsby on his way to second. He'll have extras. He'll stop there with a 2-out double. That double leads to nowhere. And now the Penguins bat in the 9th, still facing Maddox. Ty Cobb at the plate. Little dinker. Shortstop charges Fields. No play. Infield single for Cobb. But that turns to nothing. We go bottom 9. Finishing this game out potentially is Steve Carlton facing Tony Gwynn. We'll load up the matchup analyzer for you. As the Blue Sox need a late rally with a very tough matchup here. As you look at the matchup analyzer, Steve Carlton with the near league best 232 FIP versus same side hitters, a dominant 12.8 K per 9, a non-existent .8 homer per 9 versus lefties. Gwynn has his hands full as he tries to extend this game. 2-2 count. Here's the pitch. Strike 3 called. And with that, the Antarctica Penguins win Game 6 and force a Game 7, a winner-take-all Game 7. As Dogberry says in the chat, now we all win with a 7-game series. Let's go to the box score and see what happened. For Sydney, we did have another opener appearance for Tom Glavin. He comes in, he pitches to 9 batters, gives up 1 run, gets through 2 innings, and then on comes legend Maddox. And Maddox took it just about the rest of the way. Goes 6 2/3, gives up 4. Had to dance around 8 base runners and didn't do so too effectively, given that 4 of them scored. And then for Antarctica, we had Warren Spahn. And Spahn pitching in this ballpark, where lefty batters are favored, was just what the doctor ordered. 7 innings pitched, 9 hits allowed, only 2 earned runs. And then Carlton comes on for the clutch save. The win expectancy was a slow and steady climb for the Penguins, one in which they were able to finish off. And now as we head to a winner-take-all Game 7, a sim that's going to start in 2 minutes and likely not finish for 20, let's look at what the starting pitching and relief options are for each team. We'll start with Sydney. So we've got Chris Sale and David Price both fully rested as starters. The cadence and order would suggest that we'll get Chris Sale. We've already seen him in this series. He did a 9-batter face start and had a rough time of it in a 0-8 loss. But let's say we see Chris Sale again. And then after him, you're going to have some combination of Pedro, Tex, Clemens, Seaver, Moe, and Feller taking it the rest of the way. Do note that there are only righties in that bullpen. So the moment that Sale leaves that game, the rest of the way will be righties trying to retire whatever they're facing. Right-handed batters, left-handed batters, and in a park like Sydney's, that can matter. That can matter a lot. So we expect to see Sale or Price to start this game, and then from there we will see a number of relievers likely. And then as we go to Antarctica, Pedro is fully rested. Now that's the good news. The bad news is that Pedro is not the best fit for this ballpark. Pedro's vulnerabilities include home runs, a little bit susceptible to giving up the long ball. Over the course of the season, he gave up 20. which is actually a lower number than I would have expected. And lefties. So Pedro is better versus right-handed batters. Look at the split here on this particular Pedro for the Penguins. Versus righties, he had a 2.91 ERA versus lefties, 3.39. And then the whip, wildly different. Versus righties, 0.85. Versus lefties, 1.39. And if we get Sydney's versus right lineup, we're going to have 9 left-handed batters. Now, we marveled at how they were able to weather that storm once. But can they do it again? Now, when Pedro leaves the game, there are lefties, including Noodles Hahn, available to come in. So assuming we get Sydney's all-lefty lineup, when Pedro leaves the game, there's an opportunity for Price or Noodles or hell Newhouser to come in and have some really juicy matchups for themselves. So very interesting ways that this Game 7 could play out. I believe the last Pedro game that we had was a Newhouser Open. No, it wasn't. But Newhouser did open for one of the starters and started a game with 6 consecutive outs. So the sim has started. The manager decisions are locked and have been now for a couple of minutes. And it's just a matter of letting that beefy, out-of-the-park, perfect team engine crunch all the numbers, do all of the duties associated with ending a season. We probably have another 15 minutes or so of talk time, of build-up for this result, this Game 7 result. Anything can happen. Who's going to win Game 7, guys? Who is going to take it? Do we have the Antarctica Penguins winning their second Perfect League World Series? Or do we have the Sydney Blue Sox winning their first? This one could go either way. You love having Pedro rested for a winner-take-all game. But under these circumstances, that's not all good news. So what and how will Boron Barron deploy his pitchers in this game to take into account all of the various factors? We've got Brent 32-32 picking the Penguins. If the Penguins were to pull it off, it would be them coming back from down 3-1. A Yordle named Leo's going for Sydney and Roscoe's Blue Sox. All right, we'll get back into our data as we let the sim crunch. So when we last looked at this, we were looking at versus right hitters in Perfect League. Let's go ahead and toggle over to versus left. So these were the league's best hitters versus left-hand pitching. It's no surprise that this list is started by Hornsby Aaron, as it is most weeks when we look at it. Now, it is notable that Al Kaline has an appearance here. Only 800 plate appearances, but showing well with a near 20 bat value. Behind him is Willie Mays, a name that we've come used to expecting a domination of left-handed pitching from. Cascading down from Mays, we've got DiMaggio, a leap from Mays, going from 15 down to 7, but DiMaggio with some good production there. And then Jackie and Cap, a couple of righty cheese stalwarts, a couple of hitters that do well versus both sides. And then we have our first left-handed batter. Left-handed batter being Wade Boggs here, as the best lefty in the game versus left-hand pitching. From there, you've got Ricky, Campanella. So it's interesting that Campy is a positive bat value versus left-hand pitching. That's something that even Joe Maurer can't tout from the right side versus right-hand pitching. You see Roger Connor with a positive bat value as well against same side. And then there's Ty Cobb at -3. And look at Knapp. Knapp is still negative. So he was barely negative versus right, and now he's barely negative versus left. That's a little surprising. I would have thought that he would have come up above water versus left-hand pitching. Let's isolate this list just down to skilled infield position players. So people who you can put at second, third, or short. And so Hornsby obviously stands out as a huge outlier. So if you have a versus left lineup that doesn't have Hornsby in it, you need to fix that. You need to find a way to get that collection done, get him into your lineup. And then from there, as you're looking at people in the middle of the infield, shortstop and second, you could go Jackie if you're okay with skimping on range. You could go Knapp. And let me turn this split off. I'll just go back to all plate appearances instead of being versus left. So Jackie and Knapp really right next to one another. Knapp is going to be the better defender there. Jackie's going to be the better base runner. We've got Brooks Robinson. So Robinson has become very popular, and part of the reason is that he's given you the 106 range. He's given you really good middle infield caliber defense with a bat that's not going to absolutely kill you. So -11 on his bat value, whereas you compare him to the other people that are played at second base, and you've got, Robin Yount at -18, Pop Lloyd at -23, Marinville at -31. So Brooks Robinson really stands out for his ability to be both a high-range defender and a not horrible bat. So that's our middle infield. Let's go over to catcher. And here's the picture for catchers. So from a plate appearance perspective, you have almost 3 even splits here, with Maurer, Campy, and Pudge each getting around 8,000 plate appearances. A little bit more for Pudge, a little bit less for Campy. But from a market share perspective, you have them pretty evenly split there, with Johnny Bench sneaking in there as a little bit of off-the-radar option for you with 1,100 plate appearances. Bench coming in as the worst bat value of the 4. Maurer as the best bat value at -7. And then as we toggle, once we go versus left here, then Maurer becomes the worst bat. So here's versus left. So BJM is in the chat asking for Pudge versus left. Here's what it looks like. I can slide over and give you triple slash. So Pudge is 222, 279, 376 versus left. Yeah, no Simmons data. So not enough Simmons in Perfect League this week to get onto here. I don't even know if there was any Simmons in Perfect League, but my threshold for display here is 500 plate appearances, and he's beneath that. So this is versus right catcher, versus left. Here's versus right. You see Maurer being the standout play there from a bat perspective. Now, a lot of people don't play Maurer. And people don't play him because his lack of ability to control the ground game, his vulnerability late in games when Ricky Henderson comes in and starts stealing bases, and his impact on catcher ability. So catcher ability is directly influencing the ERA of your pitchers. And he's going to do a worse job of helping your pitchers get that extra strike, a worse job of helping your pitchers be slightly better at run prevention than Roy Campanella or Ivan Rodriguez. All right, we can leave catcher behind, and let's go look at outfield. So here are our outfielders. We have a very small sample size Babe Ruth at the top of it with 19. We've got Ty Cobb and Speaker right behind him From a bottom of the barrel perspective, we've got Kirby Puckett down there as an outlier with a negative 27 without a glove to make a negative 27 worth it. The best glove amongst this bunch is going to be Ken Griffey, and he's at a negative 5. Let's check out the splits here. So first we'll start with versus right. And here's what versus right looks like. And what you'll notice is your right-handed batters fall. Your K-line, Mays, Aaron DiMaggio, Henderson, they all come down pretty significantly. And your lefties fly up. Got a Richie Ashburn sighting here. Almost 1,000 plate appearances of a 5 bat value. And then we'll toggle over to versus left. And here you see Griffey really struggle. Griffey really needs to be platooned. Only facing right-handed starting pitching. And then being your D-sub late in games. All right, so we can be done with outfield and move over to first base and DH. And we'll first start with the combined numbers. Pete Browning. I don't even know this Pete Browning card that's showing up here. That's a mystery to me. Who is Pete Browning? We see LeMahieu, negative 3. We'll toggle over to versus right. And then we go versus left. Yeah, I'm going to be on the hunt for a Pete Browning. I just want to go look at the card, see what the ratings look like. You know what? I'm curious. I'm curious what team he was on. Pete Browning. Let's see who was rocking him. We had the Orville Pappenheimers were rocking their Pete Browning. All right, so we should be about 5 minutes away from our sim here for Game 7. We will be playing this one in Sydney. Sydney will be looking to give the home fans what they want, to give them a Game 7 win and the first perfect league World Series in franchise history. I'll make my first attempt to pull down the sim in a couple minutes here. Now, I know Roscoe is not just the Sydney Blue Sox because he likes Sydney, Australia, or because his name is Sydney. You know, he is an Australian, as far as I know, lives there, abides by their time zone, which means that right now is likely around when he's waking up, I would think. Nope, that's wrong. Looks like 1:14 p.m. But that's something that that I definitely haven't spent enough time thinking about. You know, for me, my sims are Central Time Zone, 9 a.m. to midnight. Those are the times when games are being played in Perfect League. And it's very convenient that 9 is when I start my work day, and I can oftentimes babysit those sims and make sure that nothing too crazy happens. And then the evening time is a little bit harder to manage as I'm working around duties at the house. But for someone in a wildly different time zone, I'm sure it's entirely different What if a big swath of the day is played while you're sleeping? That would make things even tougher. That would really make you make the onus on you to build a balanced team that can walk into all sorts of different ballparks and be competitive. That's a big time challenge. I'm going to load up Pedro Martinez in our matchup analyzer because we know we'll likely be needing it. Tom Budoman says that he's about 4 p.m. the day starts, and then 6 a.m. it ends. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. You look at your schedule, and you see you've got a really cheesy team that you're going to be facing at 3 a.m. Like, how do you set your team up for that to not get taken advantage of in that ballpark? That's a tough one. Yeah, Tech says, I like eating a home-and-home series with the API and not being able to set lineups. Yeah, you might as well just chalk up 6 losses there. You might as well just chalk them up. You're not winning those games. All right, this will be my first attempt to pull down this sim. Normally it goes another couple minutes, but, we'll just pull it, see if we can get it. And if not, we'll sit tight. And it is not returned yet. The Blue Sox, as we saw in their run-up, only lost 1 game in the prior 3 rounds and have now lost 3 games within this series and trying to avoid a 4th, which would cost them the opportunity to win that Perfect League World Series. They started with a 3-0 sweep over the Pappenheimers that were running that card that we just looked up. I'm trying to remember the name. Pete Browning. Running the Browning card. And then they get past the Muskegon Grackles. That's a new team to my awareness. They take care of the Grackles in 5 games. Then the Gotham Knights find themselves on the wrong end of a 4-game sweep. Whereas on the other end, you have the Penguins. They go 3-1 over the Punishers. Go to 7 against the Elysian Fields 9. They win Game 7 with a walk-off home run from Ricky Henderson. And then go to 7 versus Tech. Tech 15 was a favorable Game 7 sim from appearing in his 5th Perfect League World Series. And I want to say something like the 4th Perfect League World Series in the past 8 or 9 weeks or so. Tech has really been on fire lately, but found himself on the business end of a Walter Johnson Game 7 quality start and sees his Hammerheads fall to the Penguins. So the Penguins will have played 3 consecutive 7-game series, regardless of the outcome here, and are trying to have won their 3rd consecutive 7-game series. All right, let's go try to pull it down again. I want that sim the moment it is ready. Not yet. Not yet. So New Zealand Breaks is asking, what do people change in their teams between games? Pitching lineup, batting lineup? Oh, man, that is such a great question, and one that has an answer that I likely won't have time to hit all of the pieces on. But yes, you're changing your lineup. you are changing your pitchers. So let's say you end one game in a ballpark that really favors right-handed pitching. Let's say you end a 3-game series there. So the pitchers that you had been deploying for that series were typically right-handed pitchers. And now you're walking into either a neutral ballpark or a lefty-favored ballpark. Well, everything really needs to change. You're going to need to change what type of pitcher you're throwing out there, because the optimal pitcher, the pitcher that's going to give you the best chance to succeed, is likely different than the one that was the answer to that riddle the prior 3 games. And then your lineup. Your lineup's going to need to be wildly different. Because if you're going from a ballpark which is really elevating the value of balls put in play by lefties into a ballpark where the inverse is true, then you're going to want to swap some things out. So maybe you don't like starting lefties versus left-handed pitchers, but within that ballpark, you do it anyway because you know that there's value in that. And you know that the batted balls for right-handed batters, the value is not there for that. So you leave that ballpark and then you go somewhere else. And you're going to need to shift a lot of things around. You're going to need to play with the number of same-side hitters you have in lineup. You're gonna maybe want to play with how long you go with your starter. Maybe you're not going to plan on running him out there for 7 innings. Maybe you just want him to get you through the lineup one time, and then you have someone in mind that you want him to hand the game over to. Maybe you want to be very intentional about which of your bullpen pitchers you are allowing to be in play for that game, and for those that you don't want in play, you're going to force bench them. Maybe you're even going to make a roster change. Maybe that previous game was extra innings and taxed your bullpen a bit. Maybe you're going to send an arm down and pull up someone from your reserve roster to be a fresh arm for that next game. So the more active managers are typically making changes every series, I would estimate. Some making them every game. I'd say many making them at least weekly. Sim is in, says M-Dub. Let's get to it. Let's figure out who we're crowning tonight. All right, let's load this up. Let's load it up. Game 7, guys. This is what we live for. This is the fun. Welcome to Game 7 of the 2062 World Series. We are starting with Chris Sale, as we expected. We do have Sydney rocking its 8 left-handed batter configuration, whereas the Antarctica Penguins will roll out a 5 left-handed batter config versus Sale for the start. 1-0 count on Cobb, and this game is underway. The pitch. Fly ball to center. In comes Griffey. He's got it. 1 up, 1 down. We go bottom 1 now, and a chance for Sydney to do some damage here with Boggs on base facing a tough David Price. Price versus Connor. Not a great matchup. We're going to get some extra mileage out of our matchup analyzer here, given the stakes of the situation here. Someone is leaving this game a perfect league champion, and the other a runner-up. So we'll set up those matchups whenever we have a moment like this. 2-2 count on Connor. Wine and the pitch. That ball hit well. Deep right field. Right fielder giving chase. Won't get there. That ball's out of here. Roger Connor wraps it around the foul pole. Goes 365 feet. Giving the Blue Sox an early 2-0 lead. And the home fans love it. We go top 2. Sale still in the game. He's now got a 2-run lead to work with, and he's facing Tris Speaker here. 1-0 count the pitch, and Speaker gets into one. He hits that one to deep right center. Gone! Tris Speaker silences the home field crowd and cuts this lead in half, 2-1. Top 4 now. We see that Chris Sale has left the game for the Sydney Blue Sox. In his place comes Tex Houston. Let's load him up. Tex Houston is a tournament special edition card. Not in high supply by any stretch. He will face Willie Mays here in the fourth. Advantage slightly to the pitcher here in a 2-1 count. Line in the pitch. That ball hit well. Deep right field. Gone. And with one swing of the bat, Willie Mays gives the Antarctica Penguins the lead. Make it 3-2. Little boo birds. I'm hearing a couple boo birds sneaking out here in Sydney. I understand they were up 3-1, but we're in a one-run game in Game 7. Let's keep it positive, folks. Let's keep it positive. And speaking of positive, we've got Tris Speaker up with an opportunity to tie this one. He's facing Pedro Martinez. So we see that David Price came on as that opener, and Pedro Martinez is now on as the follower. The Sydney Blue Sox faithful come to their feet as they need Speaker to tie this one up. He can do so in a number of different ways. Sack fly. Shoot it through the hole at shortstop. Hit it over the fence. Little bloop here. A million ways to do it. Full count. Line in the pitch. Grounder through the right side. Base hit. And the Blue Sox tie it up at 3. Tris Speaker with an RBI single. Make it 3-3. We're still in the 5th. Speaker at first. Boggs to the plate. Boggs, a deadly hitter versus right. Really stands out for his high on-base percentage. Full count here against Pedro. The pitch. Line drive left field and down for a hit. The runner was moving on the play. He's going to try for third. He's going to make it. Tris Speaker showing off that BSR value he can give you as a base runner as he takes an extra base there. And they're now at the corners with one away. Up comes Roger Connor. And just like before, the fans come to their feet. 0-2 count on Connor. Infield drawn in. Pop Lloyd shifted to the wrong side of second. The pitch. Grounder to Pop Lloyd. He fields it. Throw to first and the ball's dropped. Pop Lloyd throws it to first. Off target. Roger Connor reaches. Juan Soto unable to handle the throw, and the Blue Sox faithful love it. The run was going to score regardless, but it now scores and puts Roger Connor on first base. Joe Maurer gets retired, and then up comes Gwynn. Gwynn, 1-1 count on him, 2 aboard, 2 away, the pitch. Gwynn, line drive up the middle, base hit. Around third is Boggs. He's going to try to score. Here comes a strong throw to the plate. Not in time. Make it 5-3 Sydney. RBI single from Tony Gwynn. It's still 5-3 as we're in the 7th. And another opportunity here for the Blue Sox as they've got Maurer at the plate. Infield still drawn in. Infield shifted. Speaker is a runner at third, a good base runner, good speed. Here's the pitch. Line drive, base hit to right. Boggs will score. Or Speaker scores, Boggs will hold at third. Maurer has an RBI single, stretching the Blue Sox lead to 6-3. Make it 7-3 now, and look where we are. We are in the top of the 9th. We have 2 outs, and the only one separating the Sydney Blue Sox from a World Series champion, a World Series ring, and a Perfect League trophy is Willie Mays. And he will face Tex Houston here with a full count. Blue Sox fans on their feet. Houston comes set. The line in the pitch. Grounded to short. Over to first. In time. The Blue Sox have won the World Series. 7-3. The Blue Sox take Game 7. In their 4th week in Perfect League, they are champions. A DLL playoff stalwart, consistent performer, has risen to the top league and showed themselves worthy of carrying the crown. Now for Antarctica, a well-known and well-established team in their own right. This being their 15th week in the Perfect League and their 14th week in the Perfect League playoffs. Already a one-time Perfect League champion, they will walk away from this series as the runner-up. Absolutely no shame in that. So let's update our score bug here and then get you guys to DishNet in quick order. So Blue Sox take it in 7. How'd they do it? They started with Chris Sale. They went 9 batters with him, as we expected. Tex Houston comes on and gives an incredible 6 2/3 innings performance, giving up only 3 hits, 2 of them scoring, but 7 strikeouts. On the other side, we saw David Price really struggle. So David Price was pitching into a lineup of all lefties, and yet he lets 2 runs cross the board early. And then Pedro comes on after him and really struggled as well, giving up 2 unearned runs in addition via errors by Pop Lloyd and Rogers Hornsby. So what a game, what a series, what a show. I thank you all for watching, and be sure to join us next week for the next Perfect League World Series for the 2063 version. Promises for some more high drama. We'll see if either of these 2 teams are back at it. As a reminder, when you make the playoffs in Perfect League, you get the opportunity to stay there and to try to, in the case of Sydney, defend your title. And in the case of Antarctica, do what Tech did. Lose 1 week, come back the next week and win it. But I thank you all for joining tonight and for participating in the broadcast. Be sure to join me on my channel on Tuesday, where I've got my interview with King Julian. That was a really fun conversation. I think you guys will get a good kick out of that. And then on Thursday, we come on right after Chris. There's only 2 more weeks of content and 2 more weeks where Kidneys and I will be going through and evaluating how strong that content is and where we anticipate it fitting into the complicated and ever-evolving Perfect League meta. So with that said, I'll sign off here, and thank you for watching.